Uh, please make sure that you're muted, except Mr. Sarah, please, because what happens is we'll hear it. Okay. So I'll start with the prayer at the beginning. So if you could bow your heads, first of all, welcome. We thank you for being here. We thank you for being here. And we say, Dear Creator, you bless our hearts with love, with joy, with peace, happiness, and calm. We ask your grace and blessing here today to hear and contemplate the Blissful Self Part 8. Let me repeat, the Blissful Self Part 8. Dear Creator, we ask that you bless all present here in this Zoom, that we feel the vibration of the Zoom. May we all feel that sensation and connection. Let us feel your light. Creator, we request to give all here the blessings of resilient health and the knowledge to create peace within ourselves and share with others. May we feel energized. Let us feel your light. May we share love, peace, and kindness to others as ourselves. We affirm love, peace, and kindness. Let us feel your light of kindness. Creator, with gratitude, we feel your blessings and we bless each other. We send this prayer out into the divine universe, and so it is. Thank you, Mr. Arun, for this time and willingness to share. We appreciate you and love you. Amen, and so it is.
Thank you very much, Reverend Manny. Thank you for the heartwarming invocation. And this invocation is very important because it puts us in the right mood to listen. So, welcome everyone. I'm glad that you are here, and we are going to have a participative, you can say, session. And let me start sharing it first. And before I start talking about it, I want to say a few words. And first thing is that this presentation is not anything new. I have shared these ideas before also. They are not coming from me. They are coming from some higher source. And another thing I want to mention here is this is a joint presentation from Rosemary and myself. It's not that I have done it all by myself. And we will keep it participative. Participative means that if you have any question for clarification, you can stop me right there.
Unmute
and unmute it and stop me there, and I will try to clarify that question. We will not have a discussion because that becomes very counterproductive for a session like this. We plan to spend, about an hour on the session, and after that, we'll go to meditation. So let's see, the subject today is the same. It is about finding who I am. And this is the most profound question in the entire philosophy. And this time I have taken a particular element from there, and I am talking about happiness in detail and trying to tell you that happiness is your essential nature. There is no reason for a person to be unhappy under any circumstances, by the way. Even if a person is suffering from body pains, body cancer, whatever may be happening, you still can remain happy and cheerful. And I'll quote some examples also where people have remained cheerful until the last breaths. I'll end with that one and I'll show you that. Let's start to tell you, by the way of agenda, what I'm going to cover is, first I want everyone to have a very clear understanding of what is the meaning of happiness. We are talking about in context to this particular presentation, because the concept of happiness can be very different depending on how a person thinks about it. So I'll start with that one chart. And after that, I will talk about the pursuit of happiness, which all of us are trying to be happy. That's the only thing we do, by the way. If you think you are doing anything else, you are not. You are only pursuing happiness. And we'll go through the details that why do you pursue happiness, for example, how to really realize that happiness. If we tend to go in the wrong direction to find happiness, and I'll tell you that what are the mistakes we are making and then how to come out of that and go in the right direction. And finally, I'll come to the discovery, that is discovering within your own self that happiness is your essential nature. You have to be happy all the time. There is no reason to be unhappy. Only thing you have to understand what happiness is. And we will end this session with guided meditation, which is, we call it Nididhyasan, which may be about 30 minutes or 20 minutes or so we'll spend in the end. And during that time, I will be the only one speaking and you will getting the feeling inside. The same feeling of happiness which I am talking today. All right, so let's start with the first chart, understanding happiness. You know, many times happiness is equated or confused, you can say, with sensory pleasures. We consider sensory pleasures as happiness. That is not happiness. So we'll first clarify the difference in the context of today's talk. Okay, what is pleasure? Let's understand meaning of pleasure, which I'm talking about sensory pleasure. It's a short-lived pleasant sensation. You get a sensation, like you eat very good food, you get some sensation. And this sensation rises in the mind. I normally say it is triggered by external sources. I'm not really making a statement that it is in external sources, it is triggered. Some external source makes you really happy, or you get a sensation inside. Like you take very good food, you start feeling, oh, I get wonderful sensation. What wonderful taste. I enjoy this coffee. Or there could be some event. You are having a party, a birthday party, a wedding party, or something like that. You will always notice that will trigger a sensation in you. But you have to really remember the sensation is in you. It is not in the object which you are looking at. It's not in the event you are looking at. Sensation is in you. And most of the time, this sensation also creates excitement. Excitement means agitation in the mind. It creates. That is how we define the pleasure, or sensory pleasure. And what is happiness? Happiness is different from that one. It's a long-lived, ethereal, means it's very subtle. It's a peaceful inner feeling. It's a feeling of satisfaction, you can call it, feeling of contentment. I feel complete. I feel content. I don't need anything else. I'm feeling wonderful right now. I don't look for anything from anywhere from outside. And this comes entirely from within. You are sitting and meditating, and you are getting that wonderful feeling within. This is what is, you're getting that feeling of peace. There is no agitation in the mind. There is no excitement here. You are just feeling calm and peaceful. Very subtle type of feeling. You are feeling that I'm complete, I'm content. Now, there are some situations, external situations, where you can get this kind of feeling. At least for some time, you can get this kind of feeling. One gets similar feeling for some time. I'm not saying it lasts very long. After completing an arduous task, for example, you go through all your schooling. When you graduate, you get that feeling of satisfaction. Although it doesn't last very long, because then you start thinking, I have to get a job now, or I have to get higher education now. But for some time, for a few days, you will be feeling very contented. It's a similar thing. You have been trying to scale a mountain for a long time, and finally you are going to go on the peak of the mountain. And when you are sitting there, you get that similar feeling, and that feeling also remains for some time. But we are trying to find what you call as happiness which never ends. You can call it eternal happiness. That's what we are trying to find. which is never-ending happiness, which is a way beyond this level of happiness. But just to give you an idea, this is what happiness brings calmness in mind, peace in mind, while pleasure brings excitement, agitation. So normally from outside, when outside events trigger something, and when you are sitting by your own self, you get that feeling of peace, you get happiness. And that is the happiness we are talking about. Now, some people say, no, I'm not looking for happiness. You are. You are only looking for happiness. You cannot do anything other than for gaining happiness. It is not possible for a human being to do it. For example, you try to earn money or get education for gaining happiness. You go on a trip, go on a cruise, also, or do some other pleasure-seeking activities also for happiness. You get married, it is also for happiness. You get divorced, it is also for happiness. Just think over it. If you think about it, you are doing for happiness. A person commits a crime. It could be white-collar crime. It could be any type of crime. That is also for happiness. And then somebody says this thing, I have sacrificed for somebody else. You have not sacrificed anything. You are looking for happiness. No sacrifice is made for any other person. You are sacrificing to gain happiness within your own self. Every action of yours is for happiness. And let's look at the cause. Why do you really seek happiness all the time? Happiness, why do we pursue happiness? An obvious reason seems to be, if you look at the obvious reason is, one can really just say this thing, because I must be unhappy. That's why I'm looking for happiness. Somebody says, no, I'm happy, but I want to be more happy. That means you are less happy. And still you are looking for happiness. You are looking for more happiness. Happiness and more happiness. And there is a lingering feeling within you that I lack something. You can call it unsatisfactoriness remains with you. Under all conditions, it remains with you that something is missing. I am lacking something. My looks are not as good. I have some creases on the face. I have not had a particular position which I am looking for. You feel something is lacking. You feel inadequate. It could be health-wise. My health is not perfect. I have some problem in the joint, or I have some other thing. It could be wealth. Yeah, I have got enough money, but not enough for me to travel all over the world. I am happy with my position, but not that happy with my position. It's the same thing. A person is not happy with status quo. For example, I want to become somebody other than who I am. For example, a lady, I was giving example just now, lady says, I want to become a wife. Then she says, I want to become a mother. I want to really become a grandmother. I want to become an aunt. All that, it keeps on going. A person who is giving teaching in a university is a lecturer. He says, I want to become a professor. And then he becomes a professor. Then he says, I want to get a Nobel Prize now. One keeps on thinking in those terms. A person who is working as an engineer, he says, I want to become a senior engineer. Then I want to become a manager. Then I want to become a vice president. Then I want to become president. One is never satisfied. One always feels that I want to become somebody other than my own self. Why do you want to do that? Why not enjoy who you are? If you are a lecturer, then you lecture. If you are a woman, behave like a woman. If you are a man, behave like a man. Somehow one is always unsatisfied with status quo. You can say that one feels incomplete, continues to feel incomplete. In fact, there is another compelling reason for you to take all action for happiness, and I'll talk about that compelling reason, which you might have already figured out, but let's go on. Okay, pursuit of happiness will continue. To overcome this feeling of unsatisfactoriness, we have two sources, two choices. One is a choice, which I was calling as pleasure, that you go through external sources. You look at the world, you look at all beautiful places, you want to go to Paris to do shopping, for example. Paris is a great place for shopping, by the way. People love to go there. Or you want to see Eiffel Tower. You want to do a number of things like that, That is one choice. And you will find out what happens with that choice. The other choice is that you look for happiness from within your own self. That is what we are really going to focus today on, finding happiness within our own self. But first, I want to talk a little bit about these external sources, because we have a tendency to go towards external sources. And there is a reason why we go after external sources, why we go after goods, why we go after position, why do we go after relations and all that, So let's look at external sources first. External sources, when you are trying to extract happiness from outside, that is in Sanskrit, we call it Bahya Ananda. Bahya really means outside, Ananda means happiness coming from outside. Here, one looks for happiness from external objects, or people, or events, and they are all sensory pleasures. In fact, almost all are sensory pleasures. One has to really do meditation on this, think about it. Most choose external sources because it is easier. Why is it easier? The problem with our sense organs is they always look outside. They are always focused on outside, exterior. Every sense organ is focused on outside, by the way. You just study all the 5 sense organs which you have. They are all the time really trying to focus on outside. In fact, sense organs cannot go inward. That is the problem with sense organs. So the result is that everybody looks for happiness from outside objects. Almost everybody. Not everybody. There are a few who start thinking about it, that I cannot get sustained happiness from outside. And they start really finding what are the faults if I try to get happiness from outside. So normally I'm going to share with you 3 basic faults of looking for happiness from outside sources, which is really a pleasure. First is that one becomes unhappy when the external source is not available. For example, you want to go to Paris and you want to see Eiffel Tower, and that day Eiffel Tower is closed. You had an appointment with somebody to have dinner in Eiffel Tower. It's not there, so you are in bad mood now. Snit, you can call it, The other is art becomes less attractive. You had a car, you bought a car, and a person really finds that new models have come, which are wonderful models. They are self-driving, they are self-parking and things like that. So you start disliking the object which you already have. So you really become unhappy about it. I have something which is very old, I don't like it, but I don't have any choice. Anyway, if you happen to have money, you will go and buy a new car, a new model you will buy. You get a new model, then you start having worries. So enjoyment does not last. As one gets overpowered by worries, you get worried. So much cost, insurance has gone up. Somebody may steal it, or it may get scratched. And you might have seen some people park their car in 2 parking spots. You can notice it in all parking lots, by the way, that when you go to a mall, you will find that some people will occupy 2 parking spots because they are worried that their car will get scratched, will get a ding when somebody else opens the door. So this is the condition, and you become unhappy. So what you found, that this happiness is not lasting at all. Now the second problem is that happiness always comes with pain. During your action, it can come with pain, like waiting in lines while traveling, or you can get pain after you have traveled. You can get jet lag. You are going for 1 week to England, and you are having jet lag for 4 days out of 1 week. So it really creates pain. And you also have a danger of catching diseases, going on a cruise, that where, all this corona is very, very active in ships and all that. and one can get disease, comes back, one has a disease, one has pneumonia, one has many other things, But a person has gone for happiness and found that happiness has come with pain, with sorrow. Now, there are other situations where a person really is after shopping. Shopping is a matter of great pleasure. I was just quoting Paris. Paris people go, a lot of people go to Paris only for shopping. It's a great place for shopping, by the way. If you really have a lot of money, if you're loaded with money.
Everything is so expensive.
It is very expensive, but you have to be a rich person to really go there to shop. Otherwise, you will go to some other place. You will go to Dubai or go to some other place. Dubai may not be the right example, but I'm saying you will go to some other place to shop. You will go to India, that is cheaper, okay. But after you shop in a place like, say, Paris and all that, and you happen to have a credit card, very good credit card, you can keep on shopping and all that, then rest of the year you will keep on suffering, paying your bills, because you have got so much debt now that you will keep on suffering over and over. And that suffering does not end. That is why I say this happiness always comes with pain. This is not happiness, it's a pleasure. Pleasure and pain come together. You cannot really separate them. This is a law of nature. By the law of nature are extremely precise. They are mathematically precise. These are the laws. Now there is another problem. Third problem is that this running after pleasure, external happiness, you can call it, leads to addiction. That is when you don't have it, you start becoming restless. A person really finds that I have to have my child or grandchild with me. When the child or grandchild is not there, one becomes restless. I have known people who want to travel all the time. They travel, come back, they can stay for a short while at their house. After that, they have to travel again because now they are restless. They say, let's travel again. Similar thing is there, the people who have got a lot of debt because of their credit card, they keep on using their credit card again to get out of that sorrow. How will you get out of sorrow? You will create more debt, but one keeps on doing it. And this is where you say the mind has started controlling you. Instead of you controlling the mind, instead of making mind as your best friend, you have made mind as your enemy, and mind starts controlling you. Mind decides when you should be happy and when you should be unhappy. And this is what it happens, and it is known as bondage. You get into that bondage. Nature's law, as long as one is seeking happiness from external sources, one will remain unhappy. This is a law of nature, by the way. And these laws of nature are firm laws. Laws of physics can sustain for some time. You can say that they can sustain the test of time, but they can later on change. Like the law of gravity given by Newton got changed by Einstein. Einstein said that I'll express gravity in terms of space and time, integrated space and time. So it can change, but the law of nature never changes, by the way. As long as you are seeking happiness from external sources, you will remain unhappy. You will remain unsatisfied. You will not have peace of mind. You will get excitement for some time and again go back to unsatisfactoriness. Okay, now there are a few individuals who have done a lot of thinking about it. And they say you can take a U-turn. Instead of really depending on external sources, you can start going inwards. And for that, you have to prepare yourself. And I'm giving an example that there are few who emphasize transition from external to inner. You can call it internal or inner. I'm using the word inner now. He says, first start practicing shedding off your cancerous gross emotions. Gross emotions, what are the gross emotions? Gross emotions are like lust, like greed, like anger, like jealousy. These are some of the examples of gross emotions, by the way. So these gross emotions, according to one of the great authors who has passed away now, whose name is Stephen Covey, And he wrote a book first. He wrote a book, 7 Habits of Highly Successful Individuals. He was talking about those who are highly successful materially. Most of the people have bought that book. But then, before dying, he wrote another book. And the title of that book is The 8th Habit. This 8th habit, he wrote that book. He said, going from highly successful to greatness. This is a spiritual greatness. And he said, I want everybody to really do introspection. Look within your own self and see how you can feel peaceful all the time. And he said that first thing is that you want to get rid of 5 cancerous emotions. Emotion is a reaction to a stimulus, by the way. That is what is emotion, that you get emotional. Let's say the first one, he says, stop comparing yourself with others. And you have to understand this comparison and observation is very different. If you really observe that somebody is taller than you are, it may not create any emotion. But if you start feeling small, like this person is tall, I am so small, I feel so bad, then it becomes an emotion. So you have to really be very clear about difference between observation and comparison. If comparison creates emotion, get rid of that emotion. Think over it, observe it, be attentive, be mindful, as they call it. That is what is mindful meditation, by the way. Stop competing with others. If you want to compete, compete with your own self. Because these are all elements of ego, by the way. That your ego really says that I have to be better than others. A person who is doing extremely well wants to do better than others. A person who is a vice president wants to become a president now, because there are other people who are vice president. When a person becomes president of the United States, he may like to be president of Moon also, president of Mars also. So that never ends, because you are constantly comparing with somebody else. If you want to compare, you can really compare with your own self. That you call it, that you should have aspiration to grow, to evolve, spiritually evolve. Then also stop complaining. He talked about 5 C's, by the way. This is the 3rd C. He says people have a habit of complaining instead of enduring it. The difference between complaining and enduring is that when you endure, you are really tolerating it without complaining. That is the difference between the two. If you have to take action, take action. For example, you see this lady is all the time complaining that it's too hot, it's very hot, especially in Arizona. Arizona is very hot. Person can keep on complaining, oh, it's hot, it's hot. They talk only this thing. They go to the office, they'll talk about it. Come home, they talk about it. Why are you complaining? If you need to take some action, do take some action. If you want an AC, put on your AC or whatever you have to do, but stop complaining. Then he said the 4th C, which he says cancerous emotion is stop criticizing. Criticizing involves what you call it emotion, that you become angry, you are very upset with somebody. That's why you start criticizing. I am very, very upset with this politician or something like that. Instead of criticizing, you should really do critique. That is, you do analysis, present both sides. Both sides you can present and just really leave it at that one. Don't have any emotion there at all in criticizing. That means you are not criticizing, you are just critiquing or doing analysis. And finally is that if you are contending, if you are asserting that I'm right, you are wrong. So that rightness and wrongness creates emotion in this one. And you stop being open to the viewpoints of others. You stop listening to others. And this is where these 5 cancerous emotions destroy you. They will not let you go from external to internal. So you really bring them down. And to bring them down, you have to be extremely alert and mindful. That you have to watch yourself. When you are getting angry, watch yourself. If you are getting jealousy by comparing yourself with somebody else, at that time, watch it, and jealousy will subside. Your anger will subside.
Watch your mind.
That is what is known as watching the mind. These 5 habits prepare you for the next stage. Next stage is finding sustained happiness within, and it requires alertness and mindfulness. And this is what we call as sublimating the ego. That you are really making the ego just to help you to evolve. Ego has stopped comparing with others. That is what is sublimation of ego. Sublimation has many other meanings also, that you go directly from solid to gases. In science, you call it sublimation. But this we are talking about, you can call it as purification of ego. Okay, now let's move on to the inner or internal. Pursuit of happiness from internal or innermost source. Now I am using the word innermost. That is what you call a self. Because internally a person says, I'll go from body to the mind. No, you have to go beyond that. That source we call as the self. And that name of that self in Sanskrit is Atma, we call it, So once you have to really go, and there you will be able to find what you call as everlasting happiness. You will discover it. And it can only come from when you start the inward journey. You start going inward, trying to really go to your own self, to your true self, not body, not mind. It is beyond body and mind. This inner source belongs to you. Now, the advantage is this inner source is always with you. Always with you. In fact, it is real you. That is what you are. You think you are body mind. No, you are not body and mind. Body mind are the 2 costumes which you are wearing. Very sticky costume which you cannot remove, unlike a shirt which you can remove and put on another shirt. But this is not true in the case of body mind. They are very sticky. You cannot just change them. So you really try to discover who you really are. And this I am quoting from Vedanta, which says this thing, that your true nature is this inner source. That is what you are. You are the self. Vedanta philosophy says you are already complete. Now I tell you this thing, that you thought you were incomplete. No, you are already complete. Happiness is your essential nature. It tells you that you are happy all the time. Unfortunately, you don't know about it. If you had known about it, if you had realized, this knowing is not knowing with the mind, by the way. This knowing we call as discovery or realizing. It is going beyond the mind. And it is because you don't know about the self. You don't know what self means. You cannot really know the self like you know an object, because self cannot be objectified. But you can start knowing that self is powering the body and the mind. You can start understanding about self. It is unknowable, but I know what is the effect of self. This is the real compelling reason for the pursuit of happiness. Why do you really pursue happiness? Always you pursue happiness is because happiness is your nature. And there is a law, another law of nature. You always want to be who you truly are. Knowingly or unknowingly, you want to be that what you truly are. That is what we call another law of nature. And I am showing you a picture here. A river is trying to merge with the ocean. Why? Because river was ocean before. River wants to be ocean again. It came from the ocean. The clouds started rising from the ocean. They traveled all the way to mountains, and then they precipitated. And it became small rivulets, and finally it became a river. Now a river wants to go back to its own self. Everyone wants to go back to their true nature. This is the reason that you are pursuing happiness. This itself should tell you this thing, that happiness must be your nature. That is why you are pursuing happiness. This is the most compelling reason that you cannot do anything other than pursuing happiness. This is law of nature. By the way, law of nature can never be broken. If the law of nature is broken, this whole universe will collapse. So laws will continue. Even for collapse of the universe, there is a law. It will follow that law only. The law of gravity, which is really integration of space and time, follows that law. Wherever it is, it will keep on following. In a black hole, it follows that law of gravity. Okay. Now we'll continue with this one. So we said that discovery of your nature of everlasting happiness, bliss is the real goal of human life. In fact, I would say it is the only goal of human life. You have been born as human being only for this reason, that you want to really discover that feeling of everlasting happiness in you. That is what we are calling bliss now. Okay, you're already aware of feeling of two elements you're already aware of, and those elements are changeless. So is this bliss is also changeless. Means it does not change with location, it does not change with time. You're already aware of two elements, by the way. If you think over it, you'll discover that two elements never change. One is I exist. We call it as existence absolute. In Sanskrit, it is known as Sat or Satyam. I am, I exist. By the way, this feeling can never change in you, whether you are young or old. Body becomes young, body becomes old, whether you are living or non-living, whether you are in New York or in India or anywhere, you get that feeling, I exist, I am. It never becomes less, it never becomes more. It is changeless, it is unmodifiable. It can never be changed. It does not change when you are a small child to a youth or matured age. It remains the same. I exist remains I exist. And the good news is, even when body falls, you will remain with this feeling of I exist. It will never go away from you. It will remain with you. Even if you really become a cosmic person, which we call as merging with the higher power, you will still really remain with this feeling of I exist. It never goes away. The other thing which you know about your changeless nature is that I also know I exist. That means knowingness is also your nature. Existence is your nature. Knowingness is your nature. When I use the word absolute, absolute really means it is changeless. When we say the speed of light is 300,000 kilometers per second in vacuum, that is absolute. At least according to Einstein, it is absolute. There are a few people who are trying to challenge now, that is different. But for a very long time, we say that speed of light is absolute. And even if you are going at very high speed, traveling in a rocket or something like that, the time will adjust and the speed of light will remain the same. That is, you are chasing a photon, you are chasing with a rocket, which is not exactly at the speed of light, because you can never reach the speed of light in a rocket. Then, because whole energy of the universe cannot really bring a rocket to the speed of light. But you are changing a photon at a speed which is slightly less than speed of light, you will find the time will automatically change. The time will contract in such a way that you will find that speed of light will still remain speed of light only. It will still remain 300,000 kilometers per second in vacuum. You have to remember that it is in vacuum. We are not talking about going through a, you can say, convex lens or things like that. However, there is a third element of your, third element of your nature, which is everlasting happiness or bliss. And unfortunately, you are not aware of it. And the goal of this human birth is to really discover that third element. Two elements are known to you. The third element is not known to you. That is also absolute. Everlasting happiness or eternal happiness is absolute, means it does not change. It will not change whether a person is sick or whether a person is prosperity, whether a person is poor or whatever it is, you can remain happy all the time. There are many, many poor people in the universe who have been happy. There are people who have given up all their wealth for happiness. Lord Buddha left his house, by the way. He was a prince. He left it to look for happiness because he found he could not get happiness in a palace. He could not find happiness. So he's going outside and he's putting his body to torture just to really gain that everlasting happiness, which he did. Similarly, situation about Jesus, situation about many others who have really gone after happiness and they have discovered it. And that is what is the purpose of this human birth. So pursuit of happiness from inner source self. This third element of your nature, which we call as ananda, we are not calling about external ananda, you can call it inner one if you say, antarananda if you want to call it. Bliss is hidden. That is the unfortunate part. We cannot find it. Like we can feel that I exist and I know I exist, but you cannot really find happiness when the situation is adverse, when there is a pain in the body, when you are going for surgery. A person is worried about death and all that, you can't find happiness at that time. Why? Because it is hidden. Hidden thing is not easy to find. Hidden thing is like a treasure under the ground. That you need to discover it. It requires quite a bit of effort. You have to dig and dig. You may be digging, number of places you may be digging and digging and digging to find that treasure. If you have to find water in, for example, in a desert, you'll have to dig at thousands of places to find where the water is there, because there is some water somewhere. Like we are trying to find water on the moon now. We are saying water could be present in one of the area in the moon, which is on the where there is a shadow inside in one of the craters, there could be water. Is there a question? Okay. So there is some water. So we are searching for water on the moon. It's like finding that, discovering the treasure. It's like that one. And similar is the situation when you are trying to really find this everlasting happiness, which is you, which is no other than your own self. But you are not able to reach it because the tools which you have got for reaching it is body and the mind. And this is beyond those tools. So those tools don't work. Those who have discovered this inner source are known as enlightened. Some people have discovered. Even in the present time also, you may find some people have discovered that. And there are many others who have discovered. But we know about them because we have got some enlightened, some prophets, some saints. We know about those saints. If those saints were not there, we will not even look for happiness. We will not look for that discovery, because we found they were happy all the time. Under all circumstances, they were happy. Whether they have to give up their life, still they were happy. Giving up the life, they were happy because they felt happy all the time. They have also shown us the path to this discovery, to discover that treasure underground. So they are the paths. I'll give you some example. Great philosophers, prophets have shown the path to us, the path to eternal happiness. I'm quoting from the time memorial, long back. Krishna, he said, discover your essential nature. He gave a 3-point method of doing it, 3200 BC. Buddha, he said, you follow your duty, your natural duty, and then show compassion towards all those who are suffering. Compassion is a love directed at somebody who is suffering. That's what we call it, compassion. Then you have Socrates who came there. He said, know thyself. He gave a very complicated method along with Plato, but he also was a great, great philosopher. He take poison, but he was very happy to take poison. You think he felt bad? No, he said, no, I don't feel bad at all. Taking poison is okay. And finally, I'm talking about Jesus, where I don't put any date because all of you know about it. He said, love one and all. And he said, love is God, quoted in the Gospel of John by the. He said, if you start loving everyone, you will discover that happiness. The other name of that happiness is love. If you have love for one and all, you will really discover your happiness. You will love everything. Whatever is there, you will love. If the body is suffering, you will love it. If the body is healthy, you will love it. If somebody is poor, you love it. If somebody is sinner, you love it. So somebody is saint, you love it. You just love one and all. So learn to love one and all. How do you learn to love one and all? By practicing to love. There is no such thing. When you want a child to learn how to ride a bike, he has to learn by riding a bike. A child has to learn to walk. How does he learn? By walking. If you want to learn how to love, learn by loving. This came also from Saint Francis. You will discover your true nature following this path. And I'll share with you a few minutes about this path, which is shown by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, which I've shared before, but I'll again share. 3-stage inward journey. The stage 1 is making the mind calm. That is preparation. What you really heard about getting rid of those 5 cancerous seeds, cancerous emotions from Stephen Covey, that was a part of preparation. And this preparation is possible when you don't have what you call a detachment. Attachment really means you depend on somebody else. Detachment really means this thing, you can take care of somebody, but not depend for your happiness on that individual. That is what saying detachment, external objects and other beings. Focus on your duty and meditate. Meditation can be done at different level. This level of meditation is that you go beyond the mind, where you can watch the mind. Stage 2 is develop craving for self-inquiry. Because with the stage 1, you will live a very comfortable life, as suggested by Stephen Covey. But you want to now develop craving for self-inquiry also. That you want to really discover that so-called the eternal happiness. That is also a part of preparation. And this can be achieved, according to what I'm talking about, Bhagavad Gita, by recognizing the higher power that regulates the entire universe and also regulates all the motion within our body. That is macrocosm and microcosm. Cosmos, and our body is also a mini cosmos. It regulates both of these. There is a power. You can call it whatever you like. You can call it a god if you like. I'm not saying that power is somebody, some man is sitting there. No, it's not like that. It's a power. It's an intelligent power. That's what really regulates everything. Like a cell of your body regulates what you call as sugar in your body. That's an intelligent cell is regulating it. But that cell also gets power from that same source, which we call as universal prime mover. Stage 3 is now start the self-inquiry. That is what we call as discovery. This is what we have now come to the stage, last part of our agenda, that is discovery. First, gain understanding at the intellectual level. That's what you should really focus on. First, understand at the level of your mind, at the level of intellect. Intellect is reasoning. Gain understanding at the intellectual level. Intellect is beyond the cognition level. Intellect is a faculty which allows you to reason, study pros and cons, and then come to an understanding about the self at the intellectual level. For example, self is powering this body and the mind. Without the self, the body doesn't, which I can see it when a person dies, the body stops functioning. What has been taken out of the body? That power has been taken out of the body. Then absorb this knowledge within by meditating on it. Now, this is a higher level of meditation where you are trying to really absorb this intellectual knowledge. Okay,
There's a question. It looks like Sandy has her hand raised.
Okay. Yes, Sandy. You have a question?
Yes. Arun, what is your difference between your definition of the difference between the mind and the intellect? Thank you.
Okay. By the way, mind, when we talk about is intellect is a part of the mind, but that intellect element of the mind is only in human beings. Normally, mind we consider as the one which cognizes the information which comes through the sensory organs and also have got emotions. That is what we call as mind. But there is an element of mind which is only within the human beings, not in any animal, not in any other living being, by the way. That element is which really analyzes the information. And this is because of that intellect element that human beings have got a language also. Otherwise, human being cannot have language. No animal has got intellect. They have got intelligence. Intelligence means that they have got some sensory organs with which they can really smell, they can see far away, and process that in the mind. So mind and intellect are not different, but intellect is a highest element of mind. That is what it is. So if you think about it, a dog is pre-programmed to behave in a particular way. Now you can reprogram by training the dog, but it is already pre-programmed. The cells within my stomach, for example, in the stomach lining, I have got cells which really secrete juices, you can call acids, peptic acid, hydrochloric acid, to really burn the food. That is pre-programmed cell. But the brain cells which we have got, human brain cells only I'm talking about, human brain cells have got one extra faculty. And that faculty allows one to really analyze and make decision based on that analysis. In the case of a dog or any cat and all that, they don't make any decision based on analysis. They go on the pre-program, which you call it instinct. So just to really reiterate, intellect is an element of mind, which is the highest element of mind, which is only privy to human beings. Does that answer your question, Sandy? Okay, then absorb this knowledge within by meditating on this knowledge. That's what one is supposed to do. Because when you get the knowledge at intellect level, you don't really live that knowledge. You have to really finally live that knowledge. For example, you understand I should be happy all the time. I should not get upset when I'm lonely, for example. You have to understand you are not lonely. You are enjoying the aloneness. That is an understanding. Now that understanding has to be absorbed in you. You have to start feeling it. At intellectual level, you have sorted out, but you are still not feeling it. Like there can be a psychologist who can tell others how to live life, but he cannot live himself. There is a story about somebody who says, I know what is right and wrong, but I cannot perform right things. I don't have control over it. So this meditation which I'm talking about, this is what we'll be doing now at the end of this lecture. This one really lets you absorb it. At least temporarily you will absorb it. Eventually you can lose it, but when you absorb it all the time, then you are enlightened. These are the 3 stages. This leads to realize your true nature of eternal happiness, which is not different from feeling limitless, feeling that whole universe is in me. Actually, the whole universe is in you. It is in your consciousness. We think it is outside. Everyone is in you. Every happy person is you. Every rich person is in you. Every poor person is you. Every criminal is in you. And every saint is in you, by the way. Anything which you know is in you. Let's look at one of the great philosophers of some earlier years of 13th century. He was a Persian philosopher, a Sufi philosopher, as they call it. His name was Jalaluddin Rumi. He has got many, many quotes, a very realized one. Realized means who had discovered the happiness within the self. We call that as realized. He said, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, and I'll meet you there. He's saying you are just a watchman. You just watch. The right and wrong you are watching. You are not involved in that one. You are not upset by that. You don't get emotional about it. You don't get excited about right doing. You don't get upset when there is a wrongdoing. You just watch it. If you have to take some action, take some action. And he says that I want you to come up to that level. That is, go to that field. That is beyond the field of mind and intellect. That is what I was trying to bring you, the field of discovery. And he says, I'll meet you in that field. Beyond pleasure and pain, beyond good and bad, beyond all limitations. He further went on with another quote, by the way. And he said this thing, same Jalaluddin Rumi, he said, don't feel lonely. The entire universe is inside you. Enjoy the feeling of aloneness. What a wonderful feeling. Whole universe is in me. Sit down and get that feeling. That entire universe, anything which I think about is in me. So how can you really feel lonely? Loneliness is a curse. Aloneness is a joy. That is what is happiness. That is what you call as happiness which doesn't leave you. A realized enlightened one remains a mere uninvolved witness to the body, mind, and the world. Watches the body, mind, and the world. That's why they call them at witnessing awareness. It's a very high level. This is the level of prophets, level of enlightened ones. And there may be many of those we don't know about. We only know about some saints who have really taken part in improving the life of others. There are many who really just live in seclusion, just live with aloneness, and they really get joy out of that aloneness while living. Okay, finally, I want to really show you some of the enlightened one. An enlightened one is always happy. There is a verse, by the way, in Bhagavad Gita, some of you might have studied it, says this thing, that is free of all worries. An enlightened one is always happy, free of all worries and desires, always cheerful. That comes in the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 54th verse. And when I'm talking about cheerful, it doesn't mean that person is laughing, ha, 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 ha. Some people practice that, laughing meditation. I don't know whether it helps or not. But this is a feeling of that contentment, feeling of being satisfied, feeling of being complete. And there are those who have had very adverse situation and they kept on feeling that. And I'll quote some of those individuals. 3 enlightened saints all suffered from cancer, remained cheerful till death, till their last breath. Ramakrishna Paramahansa, I have given that. One is Ramana Maharishi. These are all in India, by the way. And Rajgopalachari, who was my teacher, my guru also, he passed away in 2014. And he was a great, not only inspiration, but he was great in teaching also about this subject, about that enlightenment, or you can call it that happiness, your essential nature. And I'm quoting one today when I read the book. I read a few pages of that book, by the way, not the whole book. Eckhart Tolle, or Tolle, or whatever, Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart was not his name was something different. But he's still alive and he's really talking to you. He said that feel the presence. That's what he's saying, this thing, that the power of now. When you say living in the now means feeling your own presence. Your presence is limitless. You are everywhere, by the way. One should not think a body dies and that disappears. The self does not disappear. Like if a bulb fails, does not mean that electricity will disappear. Similarly, the self always remains with you. Feel that presence. Feel the presence. It is all in the whole universe. You are present. You are present in every single body. Every single being, you are present. Feel your presence. In living and non-living, you are present, by the way. In living being, you start having consciousness. In the non-living being, consciousness has not manifested as yet. But you are present everywhere. You are all. And you can be also happy all the time. You can gain this eternal happiness. If they have gained, you can also gain. They are the teachers who have really shown us the paths. And if we follow this path, you can also achieve it. With this, I would like to thank you both on my behalf and on behalf of Rosemary, and also thanking all this Interfaith Community Center staff, including Reverend Manny and Reverend Julian. It has been wonderful feeling. We'll do the meditation. Okay. Now we will meditate for about 20 minutes or so. If there's any question, I can try to answer questions right now. If you don't have question, we can have questions after the meditation also. Yes.
I was wondering, when you talk about intellectual awareness and the power of that,
Well, that's what we are really talking about. Intellect is the one where you analyze things, you study things, you are unemotional. You don't have any emotion in intellect, by the way.
well, I've studied things, but and I thought I was in the field of discernment and awareness, but I wasn't. And when we travel through that, when we realize that we're going through another phase of our learning, we accept that and move on.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is true. Absolutely. You are going
So
to.
how do you, how, is there a stopgap to understanding discernment? So you know that you're not going down the wrong path, or is the path supposed to be diverted for a little bit?
Well, by the way, you can really judge your own progress by watching three elements. One element is that how do you react to an adverse situation? That your frequency of reaction must come down with time. It should not happen every time you are, in a day, a person may react 10 times. Now you'd say that I react once in a while, I react. For example, I watch this, I do this watching all the time. Say, I used to get angry many times in a month. Now I get angry maybe once in 6 months or once in a year, or maybe not even that also. So that is what you are saying, the frequency must go down, frequency of reaction. The second thing is the intensity of reaction must go down also. That you don't feel as bad as you felt before. For example, you made a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes, we all make mistakes, and how guilty you feel about making a mistake. If it's very intense, then you will have a sleepless night, by the way. But if it is not, it will not really matter, it will go away. The great saints are the ones who also get affected when somebody insults them, somebody tries to hit them, but they recover in no time. After a few minutes, they'll say, oh, let's have a cup of coffee. I'm quoting one of the saints, by the way, I know about, who really used to get upset when somebody disturbed him in his talk. But soon after that, he say, let's have a cup of coffee. And third thing is that you should have very short time of recovery. Along with that, it should not be very deep feeling. And then you should be able to recover very quickly. That is what I was talking about, recovering in 5 minutes. So these are the things you have to watch. That if you want to watch your own progress, and you will really, it is known as, we call it FIR. FIR in India is easy to remember because it's known as First Information Report. But here we are saying this thing, that when you file against some crime, you give First Information Report. But here F really means reduction in frequency to a stimulus, to a reaction, reduction in intensity of reaction, and reduction in recovery time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other question? Okay, I think we will go to meditation now. About 20 minutes. It may take a few minutes more or less, I don't remember. But meditation, by the way, this meditation will be guided, means I will be speaking and you will be feeling that in you. When I say I, you have to feel that I is you. When I say you, you have to feel you as you. And I normally start by first really acknowledging the higher power, and then we will really start going inwards in this meditation. So we'll start now. I'll start with Om and end with Om. Om. I prostrate unto that higher power, that prime mover, which regulates the motion in the entire universe, in cosmos, motion of all nebulas, all stars, all planets, and other heavenly bodies. And the same higher power also regulates motion in this mini cosmos, which we call as microcosm, or in living beings. This is that same higher power that regulates my breathing, my blood circulation system, my digestive system, my nervous system, and all other systems within the body, which we call as involuntary motion. Now try to sit in a posture with your back upright. This posture has the beauty of making the body stable and also making the mind calm. To make the mind further calm, try to connect with your inner self. That is, look inwards. And you will find all the happiness is coming from your own self. This makes the mind more calm. This was a preparation for meditation. In fact, preparation for meditation is also meditation. Now with my mind calm, I start self-inquiry. That is, I have appointment with my own self. And I remember some of the sayings of scriptures that tell me that you are never away from happiness. You are never away from love. You are never away from freedom. It further says that you yourself are the source of happiness. You yourself are the universal love. And you are limitless. You are free. However, when I think with my mind, the thought which comes to me, how can I be free? when I feel very limited. I feel I'm dependent on others, on my family members, on my bosses. I have no control over my mind also. Mind tries to control me. So how can I be free? I am also anxious about my well-being and the well-being of my near and dear ones. I worry about my health, my finances, my possessions, my position in my profession and in the society. They are the constant source of worries. I also live with feelings of guilt. I did certain things which I should not have done. I regret it. And I have not done certain things which I should have. I feel bad about those. So how can I feel happy all the time? Even though scriptures say so. Then I remember there are moments when I did feel happy, at least for a short duration. I felt I was happy when I had wonderful food, when I was in the company of my family and friends, when I went to the beach and looked at the vast ocean, when I looked at sunset, I noticed that I had moments of happiness. But they did not last. So I need to really analyze these moments of happiness. When I superficially look at these moments of happiness, it appears they are coming from outside. From outside objects and outside situations. But when I go deeper, I notice that some of the outside objects and situations which made me happy at one time do not make me happy now. There are certain foods, spicy foods, that made me happy. And now I cannot stand those foods. There are certain functions that made me happy. But not anymore. So I conclude that outside object, any and every object, any and every situation, does not have intrinsic happiness. They only can be trigger, a kind of trigger that focuses on my mind inwards and subsides my ego. And happiness must be coming from inside. The inward journey. I also notice that even though outside object became the cause of inward journey, the happiness was felt within. Our happiness is hidden in my own self. The scriptures say that hidden source of happiness is changeless. So now I want to discover that changeless element within myself. I notice all around things are changing, including body, mind, and every object of the world is changing. So where is the changeless? Lo and behold, I discover that there is a changeless element within me, within this body. There's a feeling I exist, I am. And soon after that, the realization comes that feeling is my true nature. I exist. I changelessly exist. I have the same feeling whether I'm here or anywhere else in the world. The childhood came and went away, but that feeling remained, or I remained. Youth came and may go away or has gone away, but I remain. That feeling remains on myself. I am, I exist remains. So if I can just retain this feeling of I am, I will experience limitless happiness, everlasting happiness, eternal happiness. I agree with scriptures that happiness is my true nature, my essential nature. When I feel happy, I have come close to the feeling of I am. When I say beauty in a rose flower, I have come closer to the feeling of I am. When I get the feeling of wonder, I have come closer to the feeling of I am. When I feel free, I have come closer to the feeling of I am. When I feel love emanating from me, compassion emanating from me, I have come closer to the feeling of I am. I am complete. I am limitless. This is a discovery. With this discovery, or realization, I don't need any outside object, any outside situation for being happy. Happiness is my nature. There was a saint who meditated on I am. And he got liberated. Just on I am. If you add anything to I am, you become incomplete. If I say I am a father, I become incomplete. I am wrong, I become incomplete. I'm a grandmother, I become incomplete. I must remain only at the level of I am. I am is absolute existence, changeless existence, which we call as the self, Atma. The same changeless existence and seen from the point of view of the cosmos. We call it God. So there is no essential difference between self and supreme self. I am. I am. I am. I am. I am. Om. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arunji.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Arun.
Thank you, Arun. Come back soon.
Thank you. Thank you. If there's any question, I'll be glad to answer. But otherwise, you guys have a nice rest of the weekend.
Thank you, Arun.
I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for the opportunity of this group to be together and recognize the power, the beauty, and the blessing of I am. We have that opportunity shared in an awareness, a new perception, and Arun has allowed us to be open to the truth. I am very grateful, and I say thank you to him and to each one of you here, because each of us has felt the energy, the beauty, and the love of this time. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Reverend Manny. Thank you. Very nice.
We are blessed by you, Arun. We are blessed. We are
Amen.
going to have a happy afternoon. And I am not going to go out and buy a car. I'll keep my old one. It still runs.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you.
Thank
you, Reverend Okay, Julian and
Reverend Manny, for
Blessings to all. Thank you. Have a great Sunday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Amen.
Amen.